Hello, it's Marek here. I'm a budding video game composer, and recently I had a great conversation with a very good friend of mine, Joe. Now, Joe makes up one half of the immersive audio company called Mott White, and in the video we discuss how they started and the routes that they went down when trying to first get clients to sort of look at their services and what they could offer back in 2017. We also move swiftly on to his views on the virtual reality and augmented reality markets and where he thinks the trends are going and where there might be opportunities for audio engineers and musicians. And then finally we discuss his work as a voiceover editor for Pit Stop Productions on the Baldur's Gate 3 game. Joe had some really great insightful thoughts. I highly recommend you listen and make notes on the knowledge that he brings to the conversation. I've timestamped everything as usual because once again this is a very long video actually, this one. So I've timestamped. Feel free to hop in and out of where you think suits you best. I'll also leave a link to the Mott White website as well as some other websites and sources and things that we discuss within the video which you might find interesting. Joe knows so much. It was really great chatting to him and I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did. Okay, see you in the next one. Hello Joe. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you're doing well. Good. So I thought we would just start by having a quick chat about Mott White. So Mott White is, do you want to introduce it or should I?
I can. I'm happy to introduce. I've done it a couple of times now. So we are Mott White, a immersive audio production company, freelance partnership with one of us currently in Leeds and the other in Liverpool. Started in 2017. Mainly doing sound design and music for adverts, a lot of kind of sort of branding things. We hit not like a wall, but we became slightly frustrated with the nature of work in that part of the industry. So we thought, well, where's somewhere we could go that was more suited to like how we go about making things. And both of us are quite into doing more experimental stuff. We're quite into synthesis and kind of off the beaten track creative things, so we ended up looking at immersive stuff and we haven't looked back since then.
So you just mentioned where you are currently and I want to rewind a bit now and we're going to go back to kind of when you first started, which was when we were both still at university. And I guess my first question regarding Mott White is, when you were first starting out, what were kind of some of the processes that you and Ted kind of worked on to kind of find clients or speak to clients or kind of get your sort of foot or toe into the door of just the audio kind of industry in general?
We basically set aside days to only email. Literally did nothing except for email, and it was a terrible idea. But that said, we got a couple of things. We actually also had a lot of luck being super on it with LinkedIn as well. We've met some really cool people just from chatting to them on LinkedIn. So that's also quite a nice way to go about it. Our other main kind of thing we tried to make as a sort of draw to us was just making our own content that we kind of thought would be placed somewhere. So we, after kind of the first couple of months, we had SoundCloud playlists for every company we admired and with music and sound that we thought that they would appreciate, and we basically just made albums. It's also how we got our first library music album as well. We literally just sent a whole album to a very big commercial music library and they were just like, yep, that album, we'll take it, and that was that. So I think obviously there's all the contact stuff, but I think what mainly worked for us was just anticipating what could be a desirable thing for these companies to have and making it before they even asked for it.
Yeah, you're kind of one step ahead, I guess, or sort of predicting where the curve is going to go, I guess, and what trends might come about. And yeah, you kind of capitalize on that. Awesome. So you said like you didn't think the contacting thing was a great idea. Obviously it had its benefits in the end, but the amount of work that you said you was going into it, do you think there might have been a better way to kind of streamline that process or make it any sort of more efficient?
We assumed that every company we looked at, we could find a way of being useful to them. We didn't think of it from the right perspective. We didn't think of it as we have a style, let's find the ones that suit our style. We instead went, we can try all of these different things so every company could be a worthwhile chase up. And you know, the ones that we were successful with were the ones that we actually suited already. If you know what your style is and what you want to go for, then only really direct yourself towards those things instead of assuming that you could adapt to everything. It is pretty irrelevant whether you can do everything because they don't want everything. They're making something that's in a particular style and they want to know that that's the thing that you're effectively all in for. So be focused on who you look for, and then that would make the emailing feel more worthwhile. It also means that you'd invest more time in specific shout outs, emails, messages, calls if you really want to these places, because after a while you're just sending the same email with a different name. You want to avoid doing that, and usually the best way of doing that is actually email places you really want to work with.
A lot of advice out there from lots of people, such as yourself, saying find what it is that is your niche or your USP or anything like that, and what also makes you tick as a creative, and go find projects in that field and in that area. You have gone into spatialized and sort of immersive audio, both as Mott White, and I know you also studied as your MSc that you did, Master of Sciences in that field. And I know it's a massive topic, but I was just wondering if for sort of people like myself and people maybe listening at home, what could you kind of boil it down as to kind of, in layman's terms, what is spatialized and immersive audio?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get into that. So the first place is probably worth starting at before you go into the audio part of it is, especially when we're talking about anything to do with VR, AR, 360 video, anything that's kind of in that ballpark, you're generally working in two different kinds of immersive production. One of them being in 3 degrees of freedom, the other one being in 6 degrees of freedom. So 3 degrees of freedom would be your 360 videos. Generally, like whether you're doing that on like YouTube or if you're doing it on a phone and you're turning around on a phone. We did a project with a fella in Liverpool, an artist, for his kind of live launch, a little installation in 360 video. And you're basically glued to that position in your video. You can't move in the video. You can turn any direction you want, but you can't move through that space, which is why you have 3 degrees of freedom. So your rotational freedom is there, but your positional freedom is not. When you go 6, you add the positional part, which is your kind of room scale VR experiences where you can bend down, you can jump, you can walk around, you can do pretty much anything inside that space. And with that, audio-wise, you've got 2 different approaches as well. The more exciting one, I think, for most people being the object-based approach of 6 degrees of freedom. But both are kind of pretty crucial for each other to operate as well. So what's the best way of saying this? I mean, I guess if you're already doing game audio, if you're already implementing sound, you're kind of on your way there. So you're using an object-based approach where you're attaching a sound to a virtual object in your game, most likely, but could be other experiences, things like that. So instead of adopting what we'd call a channel-based approach, you're not deciding how much is getting panned to your left or right or whatever. If you're in surround or things like that, you're quite literally going, that sound there has sound, and wherever it moves, that sound's going to follow that object. Where you change that to it becoming spatialized is what you do with HRTF filtering. So that's head-related transfer function. We all have these things here called ears.
I think last time I checked, I've got those as well.
Yeah, they're there. I mean, most of the time they're concealed with a pair of headphones for us, but they are there. Yeah. So if you've ever wondered what the whole deal with the shape of your ear looking so weird, so that all of that kind of is called your pinner, and that's actually how you know where sound's coming from, and it's doing that by filtering. It's your head-related transfer function. It filters the sound that comes towards you so you can deduce whereabouts it's coming from. And some very clever people have managed to work out how to add that filtering to any sound, so you can basically decide where you want a sound to come from. So instead of it, when you're playing a game or something like that, you can perceive where a sound's coming from, but it's coming from your headphones at the end of the day, and you know that. So when you add this head-related transfer function filtering, we do something called externalization, and basically it's quite a beautiful thing. Find some examples. I think we've got some examples from the last webinar we did, which I'm sure I can give to you to link if you want to. And yeah, try it out, because it's quite a staggering difference, this externalization. Suddenly it goes from this sound's coming from my headphones to this sound might genuinely be coming from the room I'm sat in. Is dead cool. So that's basically the big part of what we do, and we also do a lot of work going back to the 3 degrees of freedom part of it, where we haven't got it attached to an object. We're basically putting it somewhere in a spherical shape around our head. We just decide where in the sphere it is. So it's still got that really cool externalization, but we can't move towards it or move away from it or duck under it and things like that. We're doing a lot of that at the moment with something called ambisonics, which is a microphone technique, but also a rendering technique as well. There's loads of videos on that if you want to find out more. But it's basically using something like an ambisonics microphone with a very specific microphone array to make things sound like they're coming from a whole sphere of audio instead of just your standard mic taking it from one point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And yeah, it's like I've said, it's a big topic, isn't it? So asking you to boil it down, I think, was a bit mean of me, but you did a good job. No. On the whole kind of immersive audio, spatialized audio, all that stuff, with regards to virtual reality, I guess my next question is, virtual reality is still, it's not really new anymore. It's been around for a while, but people in the industry, I think, and people seem to feel like it's coming to a head a bit more now, and things are moving to a point where it'll be more, become more mainstream and be kind of really come up to the forefront of the kind of the games industry, but also just the media and entertainment industry. People are very excited for where it's heading. So I guess my next question is, do you have any kind of predictions or any trends, or is there anything that you've noticed from your work in sort of virtuality and stuff that you feel might be around the corner or coming sooner than expected?
Yeah, I think there's two, maybe three, depending on how you look at it, key things that are probably going to be a lot more available to people coming soon. I think the big one in terms of just generally VR wise is going to be anything to do with education, kind of museums, heritage. So I think we would expect to probably see quite a lot more VR type things being used for educational purposes, whether that's actually in a school or whether that's something like school trips to science museums, things like that. I think that'll get utilized a lot more. And definitely things like museums at the moment, because anything to do with that part of culture and heritage is struggling, quite rightly, as you would expect, because no one can actually go to these places. So a lot of these things are getting taken online, and further than that, they want to make it more of a real experience. They're taking it immersive. So there's a lot of those things coming up, and I think they're going to be very widely adopted by a lot of museums. But what if you could put on a VR headset and actually sit in the middle of the Battle of Hastings, you see, the king come out, and you see the opposing army, all of these things. What are the chances you're going to remember that? Because you're remembering it as an experience that you've had, as opposed to something you've been told about.
Or read in a book or something, yeah.
Exactly. Funnily enough, I actually think AR audio is going to be a really big thing just as it is. Stuff like, very like basic things like positional audio in AR to kind of maybe give you a cue which direction to go in your car, or if you're walking somewhere.
So for AR, just for people who might not know, AR is augmented reality. So virtual reality is kind of you're immersed fully in this world. Augmented reality is augmenting the current reality. So you're seeing things. Pokemon Go is like the best example for that, isn't it? You're looking around your garden or your bedroom and Pikachu appears. That's augmented reality. Okay, carry on. Go for it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's your two best examples of that is Pokemon Go and Snapchat filters. To be honest, is your best examples there. But AR can be taken, so much further for, again, things like education is always a massive part of it. You go to these cultural sites, these heritage sites, and you see a ruin of a castle. What if you could get out your phone and you could literally build that castle to what it used to look like on your phone just by looking at it? Things, obviously, again, navigation's obviously a massive one to a lot of people. Is you get cars and you could have an augmented reality display on the windscreen to tell you where to go, so you don't have to look away from the road, which is obviously a safety thing, and I'm sure that's probably going to happen fairly soon. I think most people are very focused on augmented reality, but they do become something of the same in a lot of cases when you look into mixed reality, which is the big talk of the town at the moment, with Apple currently putting out patents for a new headset that's supposed to deal with mixed reality. So the big boys are involved now. We've got Facebook, we've got Apple.
Going back to the sort of the museums thing as well, from a kind of music composer's kind of point of view, there's loads of opportunity there as well. Like Battle of Hastings, but you want some, because if it's going to be for kids in a museum or something, young children, you could write music for that scenario. And it's very exciting because initially the point of the question was more kind of coming from my point of view with the music and the and kind of games and stuff like that, but it's so much more than that, isn't it? It's going to sort of make contact with so many different facets of life in general. It's the new internet in a way, isn't it? In terms of what it, I mean, maybe that's a bit of an overstatement, but yeah.
I think the best way of saying it, actually, it's not the new internet, it's the new social network as well. It's most likely gonna come into people's lives mostly on a social level. Obviously we're talking about education and things, but these things are all going to be done together with other people.
On that sort of something that you can't pick up when you're playing a video game with a controller on the console or on PC or something is one thing I think is body language. Like me just speaking now with my hands out like this, if I was holding if I was in a VR world holding some controllers, my character would be doing the same things I'm doing right now, which just instantly adds that extra level of personality and the kind of
And the next level to that is Facebook are looking at eye tracking at the moment, so proper eye contact. HTC have just released a new lip tracking module for their headset, so you can actually see the person's lips moving properly.
Mouth moving, wow.
So it just keeps going.
We're going to move on. Sort of the last thing that I wanted to sort of ask you about, and it's sort of a complete segue from what we've been discussing. So you recently were a voiceover editor for Baldur's Gate 3. And so obviously that's big game, huge fan base, lots of people really involved in that situation and in that title. And I guess my question for you is, what was it like working on a big game?
So I mean, Baldur's Gate is a bit of a crazy one because there's just so much of it, and the studio, Larian, just are so into the dialogue part of all of this, as it should be, because it's based off D&D, which is pretty much all about the dialogues you have and the interactions you have. So, we're talking hundreds of thousands of lines, but I know that we're way past 1 million words, and that's only the start. That's only for the early access, which is out now. So it's just going to be more and more. It's a lot to take in. So a lot of my day-to-day is obviously editing voiceover, declicking voiceover, but also having to keep on all of these scripts, and some of these scripts are going up to 1,000 lines, and you miss one of them and suddenly you've thrown off a whole section of a character. So it requires a lot of attention to detail in a lot of cases. But also the cool thing about Baldur's Gate is they're working with motion capture as well. So not only are we listening to the audio, we're also checking that we're fitting the motion capture performance into the dialogue as well. So there's a lot of different elements to that. Kind of the general takeaway from these sort of things is that attention to detail is, if anything, the most important thing that you can be doing. Staying focused on, is the script matching lines? Is the edit keeping all of the words in? It's amazing how breathy some people are, and so you find out that they've taken a 4-second exhale at the end of a line, and it needs to be there because otherwise it doesn't sound right. And all those kind of small things, including just any clicks, pops, things that people have in their mouth. It's a lot of fun at the end of the day. I'm glad that I got to. Well, I'm glad I still get to keep experiencing all of that lovely dialogue again and again.
Cool. Well, that's kind of everything, really. So, thank you very much. It was really, really interesting. You've got such great sort of insight in that kind of side of the industry. We say the industry like this kind of mysterious big figure that no one really quite knows what it is. But awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And I'll be leaving any links that we've discussed, links to Joe and Ted's website and all that good stuff. So thank you very much. Anything else you want to add, or we all good?
I guess if you're interested in learning more about anything to do with immersive production, it's worth checking out Immerse UK. They have kind of a bunch of free resources, but you can also get a very, very inexpensive membership, which will give you access to all of their webinars on different aspects of immersive production. We did one last year on creating sounds for 6 Degrees of Freedom audio, so it's worth having a look at. as well as events and stuff like that, they also put all of the different immersive events that you can attend, which are always great. And if you're in the Northwest as well, we've got VR Manchester. In Brighton, they've got a really good one. London, they've got like 4. So yeah, checking out the events that they put up for these things are also really worthwhile if you're interested in going that way.
Nice one. Well, yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. And yeah, see you in a bit.
See ya.